Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Chin-Quee Chats, the bite-sized podcast where we talk movies, sports, and everything in between. I am your host, Matthew Chin-Quee, and this week I am joined by a very special guest. He is editor-in-chief for geeksandgamers.com. He helped me get on to the Geek Pulse Radio Network. My very good friend, Mr. Jonathan Youngblood. How are you doing, John?
What's up, everyone? Yeah, we need to come up with a title for me for the GPRN, like head of content for the network or something like that. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Bringing Matthew on was the only thing me and Chris Kubiak, director of development over at Geeks and Gamers, like instantly said. It's like, we will get Chin-Quee Chats on. So no, I'm super psyched to finally be on the show. It's long overdue.
Well, it didn't take much convincing. It was basically, you want to join? And I was like, yep.
Hey, we try to put out really good stuff, and we have some amazing shows coming your way that we haven't announced yet, and I really want to, but I can't. But I cannot wait for y'all to hear it. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, I kind of know a little bit of some of these, and they're sounding really good. I'm really looking forward to when you actually can announce it, because I want to see what everybody's reaction is. But for this episode, this is going to be actually a very special episode, so I'm probably not going to have time to do a free chat segment because we are doing a top 10 films of the year so far, because we're about halfway through, or a little bit past halfway through 2017, and John and I both log all the films that we see. So combined, before the show, I took my top 10 and his top 10, combined our list to create what I think would be the best compromise between us two and what we think are the best films of the year. So one important thing is that John actually doesn't know this list, so his reactions to stuff that's being left off or stuff that I put up higher than others are actually completely live and genuine. So this could get interesting. He might get mad at me for some.
I do not promise that I will not cuss out Matthew Chin-Quee on air, so we shall see how this goes.
So we're going to get right into it because I don't want to be here for an hour. Well, I would love to be here for an hour, but this is called the Bite-sized Podcast, so we don't really want to be here for an hour. So
very large bites.
Starting at number 10, we actually have something that I gave to Jonathan because I actually haven't seen this movie at all, and that's Personal Shopper.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. I'm so glad you put this one on here.
On John's list, that's actually number 7 overall, but I haven't seen this movie because you guys know me, it's kind of falls almost under the realm of horror, and I don't touch that stuff with that 6-foot pole. So John, you want to talk a little bit about why you love Personal Shopper?
Yeah, sure. Personal Shopper gave us what at the time I thought was going to be the best female performance we get all year. Since then, it's been tied past. It's still very high up there. Kristen Stewart blew it away with this movie. The director who also made Clouds of Sils Marie is a master at slow burn movies. So it's technically kind of a horror movie, but really it is a drama about family and about loss and about finding yourself, and it is one of the most well-constructed movies of the year by a mile. Personal Shopper somehow, in a very, very slow, very, very quiet movie, keeps you locked in every single second. It is one of the most gorgeously filmed movies of the year. I cannot talk enough good about it. I saw this movie, I went in with very low expectations because it didn't seem like the type of movie that I would love. I liked Clouds a fair amount, but it just sounded, I'm a fairly pretentious fellow, but it sounded a bit too pretentious even for me. I walked out and my jaw was on the floor. I saw it with my friend Reed, and we both are very, very different in terms of what we think about the more pretentious end of filmmaking, and we both agreed it was almost a masterpiece. Like, there are very few mistakes or flaws I can find in it, short of some pacing issues and a little bit of continuity problems, maybe, depending on how you read it.
Yeah, and Kristen Stewart's an actress that a lot of people, Twilight was almost 10 years ago now, I think, and people still brush her off as not being a great actress. And I can't speak to how good she was in this film, but I saw Still Alice for the first time this past year, and she was spectacular in that. And all I've heard is great things about her in this film. So
I will mentally punch in the face anyone who like throws away Kristen Stewart's acting ability, because she is truly, in my opinion, one of the best female actors we have in the industry today.
yeah, and you know what? Because you said it wasn't exactly 100% horror, I might check it out because there is another horror film on this list. I'm guessing you already know what it is, but and I'm
There
guessing
are
everybody else.
three little scenes in the movie that I would construe as mild horror, but if you've seen any PG-13 scary movie, you've seen something scarier than Personal Shopper.
Yes, but I do get scared of PG-13 movies. I hope you know that. Well, speaking of powerful female performances, my number 9 features one from a younger actress, actually a newcomer, and this is a film that we both have in our, actually no, only I have in my top 10, but you have it pretty close, and that's Logan.
Yes.
Now, what about Logan differentiates it from just another superhero film that you would put at the top of your list, such as I don't know, from last year, a Doctor Strange or an X-Men Apocalypse? I know you like that, despite other people not liking it. But what is so different about Logan?
Well, it's a damn shame that it's already on my top 10, because Logan, I left so happy and so broken at the same time when I saw it. Logan is able to master the R-rated nature of it without doing what movies like Kick-Ass or even Deadpool or even Watchmen fell into, where it almost goes overboard. Logan used everything from the obscenity to the gore to enhance this visceral, biting tone that left you just feeling empty in moments. There's no way this movie could have been done any other way. Hugh Jackman has always been really good as Wolverine, but he completely gave everything he got to this role. Daphne Keane as X-23 is outstanding, and Patrick Stewart is as good as Patrick Stewart always is, minus his most recent role of the year, and just absolutely kills it. The strength of the X-Men franchise has always been performances. It's always been the chemistry between the leads, and Logan has that in spades. That one scene, which in any other movie would have been awful, where Logan loses his shit on a car, is one of the most like tear-jerking moments of the year, because it shows a man who is so strong and who has been a hero of the decade for so long absolutely breaking down. I love this movie so much. It is everything I hoped it would be. I love the Old Man Logan run in comics, and this gave me everything about that run that I wanted, and really set the stage for future R-rated comic book movies to be great, because I think people always write off comic book cinema as being campy and too happy and too bright and shiny, and this movie was none of those things. It was honest, it was genuine, and it was a truly cinematically great movie, apart from just being a good superhero movie.
I think what Logan's strength is, one of its biggest strengths is that it takes something that the comic book genre has been trying to do for a long time, and it has worked in the past, but has continued to try to do, and that's make the superheroes feel like they're in a real gritty, in our real world. And this felt like they had taken Logan and thrown him into our real world and put him in real world situations, from the villains to the side characters, the side characters that he encounters, like the family. Everybody feels so real and feels so genuine. They don't feel like caricatures, or they don't feel over the top like some comic book films can feel like. And that's one of the strengths of Logan, in my opinion.
There have only been 2 movies this year that have made me cry harder than Logan. And I think we're going to deal with both of them later on the list. But it broke me. I still remember what it felt like to walk out of Logan. It's one of the most unforgettable cinematic moments of the year for me. I wish it were higher on my list, but we've had so many good movies this year so far. This has been, I maintain 2017 has been a great year so far, and I loved Logan.
Yeah, 2017 We're kind of getting off on a tangent, but 2017, it started off kind of poor for me, but it has slowly strengthened. That is due a lot in part to this next film. And now I know this is one you haven't seen because you haven't seen any of the predecessors in the franchise, but that's War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
And I'm going to attempt to try to convince you to watch these because you haven't watched any of them, right? Or any of the newer threes.
I started the first one, which is either Rise or Dawn,
It's
depending
Rise.
on its Rise. Okay, I don't understand how that works. I watched the first half hour of Rise and really loved it, but I knew it was a movie I kind of needed to be emotionally invested in, and I was not watching it on a day where I could do that, so I put it off. And ever since then, I've been putting it off and putting it off. And then War came out, and I was gonna see the triple feature, but I had to work that day, so I couldn't do it. And now it's three movies I have to see that are all like 2.5 hours long, and I just don't have that kind of time all the time when I'm home. So, because I'm recording shows like this, or I'm doing something for geeks and gamers, so I will watch it. I promise. It's just probably a home video situation.
Yeah, I will say I'm jealous that eventually you will be able to sit down and watch all three of these films back to back to back
That's the plan.
because War really caps what I believe is one of the best trilogies of all time. And now, you might be thinking when you think trilogies, you think Star Wars, you think Indiana Jones, you think the really big ones, but you don't think War of the Planet of the Apes. You think it's, oh, maybe these are blockbusters, but these are blockbusters that these are smart blockbusters. And that's not to say that the regular general audience member will go in and just kind of be bored or confused, because it has great action and the story is simple enough that, for lack of a better term, the layman can understand and the general audience can understand and get a lot of entertainment out of. But especially with this one, it presents themes and puts morals, really questions a lot of your morals about humanity, about what it means to be a human, and really puts those dilemmas in your face. And Caesar is such a Shakespearean character. You can see, if you watch all the way from the first to the last film, you can see the progression of him and the various experiences that mold him, and you can see why he has to make certain decisions and why he's reluctant to make the hard decisions, and that makes him almost more of a human character than a lot of the humans in the films. And I think that's the biggest strength of this entire trilogy. It's the fact that it outlines just how just some the flaws in humanity from Caesar's eyes, from someone who's not a human. And it actually makes you cheer for the apes. You're cheering for the apes. You're not, as a human, you're not cheering for the humans. And I think that's quite brilliant.
Yeah, the ability to make a series like this that changes POV, and that takes an existing property and kind of reinvents it a little bit, and that challenges so many deeply innate concepts that are so embedded into the human psyche. I'm so impressed by how popular and how well received the Apes films have been. I know I will probably love them. I just need to see them.
Well, speaking of movies I haven't seen, number 7 is one that's another exclusive that's on your list. And this is one I actually had barely even heard of. I just kind of heard of it the past few weeks, just because it's been popping up on a lot of people's lists, and that's Beatrice at Dinner.
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't think I was going to get talking about this one, but I'm super excited to talk about this one. Okay, so A Beatrice at Dinner. Oh my gosh, I love this movie so much. It is, I walked into this movie because it's super short and all of the marketing has been so politicized, and I thought this was going to be a beat you over the head with it kind of message film, and I sat there and I was absolutely floored. Salma Hayek, who has never really impressed me before, is outstanding. John Lithgow gives one of the best dramatic performances of the year, and oh my god, I love this movie. It tackles concepts of race and culture in a way that is extremely convicting, but also is extremely understanding in weird ways. It is definitely a movie that feels like it was made in 2017 after certain political events happened, but it is also deeply relevant outside of our current time period. This is a movie that, if it does not get any Oscar buzz, I will be very disappointed because, at least in terms of acting, I haven't seen many performances. I haven't seen any performances this year or possibly even last year by an actress better than Salma Hayek in this movie. I would put her above every female performance of last year except for Viola Davis. She was outstanding. The story is outstanding. The script is brilliant, and the movie itself is just it's an experience that needs to be had. It's a very cathartic experience as a person of color in America, and I cannot praise Beatrice at dinner enough.
I'm
I'll
not
say that a lot.
I'm not really sure how to follow up on that other than uh, I had no idea what this movie was about prior to this. I purposely wanted to hear you explain it for the first time. So hearing that that it tackles the subject of race in our modern society, that instantly has me hooked because we're both people of color and we both are always pushing for diversity and just race relations in modern society are both very important to us. So
I'll give the 30-second story pitch. Beatrice at Dinner is about Salma Hayek's character who is working for a very affluent white family in California. And her car breaks down there. And she is not forced, because she's a longtime friend of the family, but she is given the experience of having dinner with the affluent family and their friends. And throughout the movie, in her experience as an immigrant from Mexico, in interacting with four people at the dinner who I wouldn't even call like sinisterly racist. I would call it casually, systemically racist. The little things that they say and do. It is one of the most realistic depictions of micro and macro aggressions on issues of racial conflict, and Salma Hayek sells it so well. The righteous anger and even just the mild uncomfortableness of being the only person of color in a room full of people who aren't necessarily thinking about what they say.
that sounds like some powerful stuff and reminiscent of another film that is higher on this list.
Yes.
These clues
Yes.
are getting less and less subtle, but that actually isn't the next one. The next one is a film that another one that kind of came out of nowhere for both of us because I had seen the trailers and I was like, okay, this looks kind of cute, but I'll go see it. And that's Their Finest. And we both fell in love with this movie. I fell in love with this movie the minute I saw it, and I remember I immediately went to one of a million chats that were in on Facebook. I was like, you guys all need to see this movie. This is such an important movie for our time, but especially because it came out around the time of the women's marches in all around the world. And it's just one of the most empowering films that doesn't really shove a message down your throat and isn't very preachy, but it's also just a great love story and a great drama. So, John, you want to give your thoughts on Their Finest?
I haven't thought about like the empowering nature of this movie yet. Like I legitimately didn't that like it's so quiet in the way it presents it. Like I as soon as you mentioned that, I'm thinking about the movie and I'm realizing how amazing it is for that. But I hadn't even really thought too deeply about that. To me it was always La La Land was my favorite movie of last year. I love letters to classic Hollywood. Their Finest is the biggest love letter to classic Hollywood you'll ever see, and that's why I love it so deeply. But you're right, it is such a important movie, and it is such a deeply, like you said, a deeply empowering film. I need to see it again, looking for that more closely because that is awesome. Their Finest has some of the best performances of the year. I will always like mildly tear up thinking about Bill Nye's performance in this movie because for some reason his character just hit me really hard. Will You Go, Lassie Go, where he sings a song by a piano and it's like this reminiscent like I miss the old days moment, and it's so beautifully filmed, and Sam Claflin and Gemma Arterton's chemistry is so great. Their Finest, it's written off by a lot of people, and not a lot of people absolutely adore it. Anyone who hasn't seen it needs to give it a shot because it is one of my favorite movies of the year and one of the handful of movies of the year that I plan on revisiting next year.
Yeah, their finest. The fact that you just happen to miss a lot of the empowerment stuff speaks to how chock full
Mm-hmm.
this film of just everything for hardcore film fans. It has that love letter to cinema. It has a love letter to screenwriters because the film is about a female screenwriter, but it is also really subtle in its empowerment. It doesn't like I said, it doesn't shove the message down your throat. It's kind of just there. It's matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
she's a female. She just happens to be a screenwriter. So what? But it's also hilarious. Like you mentioned, Bill Nighy's
Yes.
performance, and whenever he was on screen, I was laughing, and I was laughing so hard I was
Oh yeah.
almost crying because he does not waste a minute of screen time in this film. He's just spectacular.
Yeah, no, he's one of my like most underappreciated actors out there. Love Actually is my go-to Christmas movie, so I'll always have a soft spot for anything involving Bill Nighy playing an old curmudgeonly aging star.
It's gotten to the point where I can't really imagine him young. He just has to be the old guy now.
Exactly.
Uh, well, number five, I don't really have a good transition for that because this one is actually going to really surprise you. Because prior to this, we were talking about how you might have left this off because I didn't really love this film, but I can understand why you did, and that's Colossal.
Thank God. A top 10 of 2017 without Colossal in it somewhere would have made my heart very sad.
Yeah, I put it up here just for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You want to talk about just what about Colossal really hits you so hard because um, the trailers really, and this isn't a fault of the marketing because this film is a really hard film to market in my opinion. But the trailers made it seem like it was just some wacky monster comedy, but really it's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, no, The Colossal is an impossible movie to sell to anyone or to market. There is no real way to explain it. On one hand, it is a really hilarious kaiju movie with a really campy looking monster that to anyone who's a fan of like B movie Godzilla style action flicks, they'll find something to like here. But deeper than that, the only way I can explain why Colossal is so important is I'm very active and I have a huge heart for survivors of abuse, and finding media that helps cope with trauma and helps people process through feelings of anger and resentment and bitterness and sadness and loss is deeply important to me. And I sent this to a very dear friend of mine who is a survivor of abuse, and I said, "You need to watch this immediately." 3 months later, I got a call from her saying that she'd finally seen it, and that when she first was told to watch it, she immediately looked it up on IMDb, saw the poster, saw the premise, was like, "Nah, I'll put this. There's no reason to watch this." Afterwards, we talked for a solid 2 hours about the symbolism and the character development and the way things were framed and the arcs that were involved and what this character might mean and what this character might mean. Because for anyone who wants to dive deep into the psychology of abuse and the cycles of abuse and the subtle ways in which people can feed into abusive cycles, Colossal is an allegory of epic proportion. It's got some people feel like it kind of jumps the shark, and some people feel like it's a little bit too intense and a little bit too unsubtle in moments, and that there's some characterization that doesn't make sense. I think that to really truly love Colossal, you do have to come into it from a certain perspective, which is true about any film, but especially true about ones that are so deeply tied into personal experience like Colossal. I can understand people not liking this movie. It's incredibly divisive, and I admit that it's got flaws. It is my number two of the year. I wanted it to be my number one very desperately, but a movie that we will talk about later came along and completely blew me away. But Colossal is probably the movie moving forward that I will recommend the hardest from this year, even after the slew of Oscar bait that we're going to get in the coming months. I can't see a movie that I will feel this passionately about coming in a very long time.
Yeah, I can say that I've been fortunate enough not to experience um, any sort of thing that this movie is tackling, and that may be why uh, I wasn't as affected by it. But I can say that after I watched it, we also talked for a good
Yep.
hour and a half, from 2 hours, just about the symbolism, about uh, what happened in this movie, and you explaining certain things, and me trying to understand from someone who doesn't hasn't necessarily had those experiences. And I can say that I after talking about it, I didn't necessarily love the film as much, or I still didn't love the film as much as you, but I understood it and I understand its importance and why people need to see it.
My one sentence pitch before Colossal to anyone listening is if there is one movie from this year that is outside of your comfort zone that you need to give a try, it is Colossal. Because it's
Uh,
going to be outside of a lot of people's comfort zones, and some people might not like it, but it's worth a try. It's really worth a try.
and I think that's a good way to end the colossal
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Move on to the next film, which is another blockbuster. We haven't had a blockbuster in a while, and that's Wonder Woman. And this was a
Yes.
really big surprise for, I think, a lot of us. I know for you, especially, you don't really like the DCU so far.
I hate the DCU so far.
I've been 50-50 split on it as someone who grown up with the DC characters, and I inherently just love them. I really wanted the DC extended universe to succeed, and they haven't delivered in certain areas, and they've delivered really well in certain areas for me. But Wonder Woman, both with audiences and the dreaded critics, uh, it's been received positively almost nearly universally. And I think that a lot that is due mostly just to Gal Gadot and how great she is as the character Diana.
This movie has been talked about and praised almost to death, so I will just say one thing about Wonder Woman. Every time I think about the girls growing up today with Wonder Woman as a movie that is so critically praised and so important to the year, every time I even think about my little sister going to see Wonder Woman with me, I get extremely emotional because this is the importance of Wonder Woman cannot be overstated. We have had strong female protagonists before. This is unlike almost anything we've had in a very long time. And I am so happy this movie exists.
And I think it's important to note that while we've had strong female protagonists, we haven't really had them in the comic book genre, which is
Yes.
arguably the biggest film genre in the world right now. And to
Mm-hmm.
put not only Gal in the spotlight, but Patty Jenkins behind the camera,
Yes.
and give her the chance and give her the spotlight as a woman in film. And most of the people in who are in the film circles know about the struggles of getting women involved in film, and seeing how critically acclaimed, how this film is just blowing the box office out of the water. And it's just it's incredible to see its success, and it makes me really happy, and makes me really happy for the future of the film industry, and really hopeful that they can continue doing stuff like this moving forward.
Definitely.
And number three is a film that we've basically been teasing for this entire time. It's Get Out, and Get Out
Mm-hmm.
was this almost falls into a horror genre, which at the beginning of this episode you heard me disparaging about how I get scared about everything, but I was kind of forced to see this because I had heard how good it was, and I've heard how it tackles uh, race again, much like a lot of other these films. A lot of this top 10 tackles various messages, very social messages that both John and I are pretty passionate about, and Get Out is no exception. It's both hilarious, it's a great thriller, and it sends a great message.
Just a note, and I'm sure listeners are thinking this too. We're at number 3, and there are 3 movies left that belong to be on this list. So I am not sure what's going to happen next, but I'm very excited to hear what number 2 is. Get Out. Get Out is brilliant. Any movie that could make me want to opine for an hour about the importance of Fruit Loops to a movie is amazing. It's a bit role, but one of the most interesting Asian characters in a movie this year, we
Hmm.
haven't had many, is in Get Out, which makes me happy, even though he gets one line. Um, and just in general, I love everything that Jordan Peele is able to do. Daniel Kaluuya has been on my radar since he was in my favorite episode of one of my top 2 favorite TV shows of all time, Black Mirror. So I knew he was talented from the get go, and he blew me away in this movie. Brilliantly scripted, brilliantly paced, phenomenal movie, phenomenal horror movie, even, and a deeply important social commentary. I'm so glad that so many people got behind this movie and did so damn well. Independent filmmaking does not get much better than Get Out.
Yeah, this film almost became a cultural phenomenon at the time it was being released. Like, I remember going onto Twitter and everybody was talking about this film. Um, it
Yep.
did happen to spawn one of the greatest, in my opinion, comedic side characters in the TSA agent, because everybody needs that type of friend, because that
Definitely
guy,
funniest character of the year so far. I
that
would say definitely the funniest character.
that's
Oh
the
well, except for our number 1 movie that we'll get to.
yes, of course. No, that 100%. I love how you already know what a number one is, because it
It's
was
both of
never
our
not
number
going to be
ones.
our number one. Um, but yeah, that's the type of friend who will stand with you through thick and thin, and everybody needs to go get yourself a rod. If you take any message away from Get Out, it's find yourself a rod.
Yes.
So number two is
Okay, hold on. Let me try to guess it. Is it Dunkirk?
you would be correct.
Okay. So you left off the one I'm okay with leaving off, even though I'm mildly salty about you not including Spider-Man: Homecoming on this list.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to put that on, and then I realized I don't want to put that on because I wanted to see your reaction, what it
Yeah,
would be.
it's a solid number 11. I can get behind that one being number 11. It's a great movie, but also it's a Marvel Spider-Man movie. Like, of course, it's gonna be fine. Less riding on it than any of the movies we've talked about so far. So I'm okay with it. But if Dunkirk wasn't on this list, I was gonna be angry.
Yeah, Dunkirk is. Um, I'm willing to say that it's a cinematic triumph. Like, I don't think I've seen a war film that immerses you as much as this. Maybe the first 20 something minutes of Saving Private Ryan, but this does it in such a way where it doesn't immerse you in the fact that it's extremely graphically realistic. It's the way it's shot. It's the characters around you. It's the fact that you don't know the the names of the characters. It's the sound. It's every little piece, every little moving part of the film that Nolan crafts together so well, and he's always so great at this. That really immerses you into this world and really makes you feel like you're right there. And that's probably the biggest reason why I love Dunkirk, because it is such a unique war film.
Dunkirk is not my number 1 movie of the year in terms of my favorite movie of the year, but it is far and away the best made movie of 2017, in my opinion. It is, if this movie does not get Oscar buzz and is not nominated for almost like for best picture, definitely, for best director, almost certainly, best cinematography, almost certainly, best sound mixing, almost certainly, I will be very, very angry, because this is a triumph. I left Dunkirk in physical pain. Like, my stomach, I don't think my stomach was not in a knot for the entire 90-minute run of the movie. I went in thinking, oh, this is a really short movie. How are we going to do this? I'm glad it's a short movie, because I was so anxious and stressed during this movie. I don't know if I could have done that for 2 hours. Nolan makes you feel so claustrophobic and so just like you're almost in the trenches yourself. You feel like you're trying to get off the island, or the trying
The beach,
uh,
yeah.
the beach. Yeah, sorry, history people. I'm not good with history. It's such a good movie. The performances are great. People criticize the character development and how it doesn't feel like a war movie to some people. I would hazard a guess that people need to go into this with the right expectations, and if you go in expecting the wrong movie, you will not enjoy it, which is not a fault of the movie. It is just a fault of other movies existing and expectations existing because of other movies. Dunkirk on its own is absolutely phenomenal. It is such an it's I can't call it enjoyable. It is such a gripping ride that tears you apart. It is one of the two movies that made me cry more than the other movie we talked about earlier. I don't think I stopped crying for the last 45 minutes. I was just so engrossed in the story. It wrecked me. Dunkirk is a must see in theaters. It is still in theaters. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen it in theaters, you are missing out on a movie that theaters exist for. The reason why we have cinemas is because movies like Dunkirk exist. You need to go see it right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of films that I hear a lot of people saying you need to see this, and sometimes I don't agree, but this one, 100%. If you don't see it in the theater, it's a completely different experience. I happen to see it in an a Dolby Atmos theater, which is widely kind of regarded as the best sound system that you can get in a theater. And hearing those planes going over top of you, you would almost need earplugs because you feel like you're on that boat and hearing the planes, Spitfires going right over you. And it's incredible. And as you said, you can't go in expecting a war film. This isn't a war film akin to Saving Private Ryan or Hacksaw Ridge last year, which are incredible films in their own right. They're very These are two very different war films, but equally phenomenal.
I would say that this movie elicits the most terror and horror of any movie this year so far, including the actual horror movies. Like, you feel so deeply during this movie. It is in every sense of the word a horror movie.
And it wouldn't be a kind of mini film review without me talking about the score, because the score is such an integral part. It is the score is a character in this film, and you guys know that when I love a score, I know it's a character. Just like how the great one himself, John Williams, created the Star Wars score to be a character. Hans Zimmer created the score in Dunkirk to be a character. Just the clock ticking, with the accompaniment, it instantly gets you more stressed and instantly puts you in a moment where you can feel that tension, where you can feel that horror, where you can feel that anxiety that the soldiers are feeling.
At the very least, I watch movies and I'm usually a little distracted. Like, I'll pull out my phone if I'm watching a movie at home and, check Facebook for every once in a while, stuff like that. When you watch Dunkirk, if you cannot see it in theaters, put your phone in the other room, turn your speakers up as loud as you can, sit there and focus. You can do it for an hour and a half. This movie deserves your undivided attention, and you need to experience this movie.
Speaking of experiences, I think it's time to get to our number one.
On a happier note.
On a completely kind of happier note, this movie gets emotional at times, but it's still, at its heart, a comedy. And this is a film that I had hyped for me for the last 3 months. All I've heard is insert blank movie here, insert blank movie here. This movie is incredible. And a lot of the times, films, when they're hyped that much, they don't live up to the hype. But The Big Sick did. And I only just saw this 3 days ago, and it still is sticking with me. And I still have that itch to go back and see it again, because it is not only one of the funniest movies that I've seen this year, but it has some of the greatest chemistry between the two characters, between all of the characters, some of the greatest writing, some of the greatest drama. The emotional beats are, I'm sure this is another one of those movies that made you cry.
This is the third one.
But everything about this movie is, it all comes together to another one of those indie rom-com darlings that I fall in love with every time I see.
I have seen The Big Sick twice now. I will see it a third time in theaters if possible, and if not, I will be watching it constantly as soon as it comes out on VOD. I could not have had higher hype for this movie. There is no way I could have walked into this movie with higher expectations. I went in expecting a 10 out of 10, and anything less than a 10 out of 10 would have disappointed me. I walked out of this movie feeling like I was on top of the world. It is, on one hand, having a very compelling, very well written interracial relationship is always something that I'm going to get behind, because it's why I loved Edge of 17 so much last year. It's why I love this
Yes.
movie so much this year. It's something that is deeply important to me on a very personal level. So personal bias out there on the table. This movie had at its central point something that I feel very strongly about if it's done poorly, and very strongly about if it's done well. That being said, this movie is hilarious, and this movie is heartbreaking at the same time. Who would have thought that Ray Romano would make me cry?
I didn't honestly. I didn't expect Ray Romano to carry so much emotional weight in this film, and if I'm being honest, I think that he is actually he's the one who is the most he's the most dramatic actor out of all of this in this film. Like
Mm-hmm.
he all of his or most of his scenes and most of the dramatic scenes revolve around his character, and I was really impressed from what I saw in him in this film.
And we lost 19 of our best guys is the best line in the movie this year. It is really the best line in the movie this year.
Yeah, I when you're talking about the interracial relationships, it's seeing this film and seeing what I forget. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is.
I think I heard it like pronounced three different ways in the film. I'm pretty sure, but the main character, I'm not from the country that he is from, but I've had similar experiences in certain areas, and there are parts of this film I was like, man, I totally relate to that, and that serves to make the film either funnier or sadder, or just it takes whatever emotion is being conveyed in that certain scene and ups it by 20 just because of how relatable and how real it feels.
The best part about so many of my favorite movies of this year is how many times I've been able to say, "No, wait, that actually happens."
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's The Big Sick or Beatrice at Dinner or Colossal, the movies are beautiful because in their own unique ways they reflect life, and they reflect experiences that I would call underrepresented in cinema. The little things, and The Big Sick isn't even at its core a movie about racism. It's a love story, and it's
No.
a movie about overcoming obstacles for someone that you care about. But it does so with the overarching element of culture shock, and of being able to accept other people for who they are. And it has such well fleshed out characters that are so deeply real and so deeply personal, and not treated with disrespect in any way. It is such an important movie. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a kind of corny rom com. But the humor lands, the characters are phenomenal, and my God, The Big Sick is, if this movie, I've said this about three movies, and I already have half my Oscar ballot written. If this movie does not get nominated for Best Picture, I will be very disappointed. It might not get anything else, but Best Picture at least it deserves.
Yeah, I'd be prepared to see it not being nominated for Best Picture. I don't know if this type of movie that the Academy will nominate for Best Picture. I will say it may get a screenplay nomination.
Yes,
Um,
that's kind of my holdout hope.
so just as a recap, at number 10 we have Personal Shopper. At number 9 we have Logan. Number 8, War for the Planet of the Apes. Number 7, Beatrice at Dinner. Number 6, Their Finest. Number 5, Colossal. Number 4, Wonder Woman. Number 3, Get Out. Number 2, Dunkirk. And big number 1, The Big Sick. Thank you for joining me today, Jonathan. This was really fun. Where can the people find you and your shows /stuff/everything?
Well, come and hear me in 5 months when we're talking about this again post Oscar bait season, because I'm sure we will have a lot more to talk about. I hope to see Big Six still on my list very high in January, but who knows what'll come along. Outside of that, check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Youngblood_95, and just keep listening to this channel. I'm on Geek Pulse Radio every Tuesday and Thursday. And just in general, I'm always trying to find new shows to bring to this podcasting network to help grow the channel and help get people content that they love. I can officially announce that we have a sports show coming starring the head of Geeks and Gamers himself, Mr. Jeremy Griggs. And we will be having a show about a little tease about an unannounced thing, the third word in our name. Geeks and Gamers will finally have a show on the podcasting network solely dedicated to it. So if you feel like there haven't been enough good gaming content coming from Geeks and Gamers, stay tuned because these hosts are amazing with that available lineup. So stay tuned, more to come. This podcasting network will very soon have almost daily shows coming out for you to listen to that are all going to be amazing. So just keep listening, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We'll have something for everybody.
I think that was a pretty big presumption, assuming that you were going to be here on 5 months to talk about the top 10 of the year.
If you don't ask me, I will remove the show from the network, and then there will be no show. So,
well, speaking about the network, you guys can find this show on the iTunes feed for the Geek Pulse Radio Network now. So ignore my old iTunes feed, but if you don't have an iPhone or you don't use iTunes, you can always find my stuff at my website, which you're probably listening to right now. So that's probably a moot point. But you can find all my social media stuff in the description at CQ_chats from the podcast Twitter, from personal Twitter, Chin-Quee96. And I also just want to do a really quick shout out to the Princess Twin Theaters in Waterloo. No, this is not sponsored, but for the past 3 years, I've only gone to see one movie there every summer, and every movie in the exact same theater, I've sat on the exact same side. I've gotten a 5 out of 5, and all of them have remained in my top 10 of the year. So I'm just going to say that they're my good luck charm theater, and I'm not going to go back for the rest of the summer just because I don't want to ruin that tradition. But thank you, Princess Twin. But other than that, this has been a really great episode. Next week, I will have free chat again. But until next week, I'll chat with you guys later.